Welcome to episode 13 of the Foy & Jones Show. Today I'm joined by a special guest who's travelled down from Edinburgh. He's originally from Canada. He's going to tell us the plain and simple story. Glen Stocco is joining me in the studio. Boom, here we go. Welcome to season 6 of the Foy & Jones Show. It's a sunny day in June. It's a little bit windy, but we're in a new month. We're recording our first episode of June, and it's episode 13 of season 6. And we've got a guest who's made a journey to be here today. He's based in Edinburgh. He's originally from Canada. We're going to find out all about him. Glen Stocco. Welcome to the Foy & Jones Show. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Peter. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you down. I know you're down in this part of the world anyway, so making this work, getting you into the studios, really special because we want to bring as many people that are inside our sector, outside of our sector, and also just connections that we think can add value to our listeners and our audience. And that's not just our connections on LinkedIn. That's the listeners who are looking for inspiration, perhaps in a different stage of their career journey, or perhaps think about things very differently. The subject of being different is what we're going to talk about when we explore the plain and simple story. Yep. Even simple things like where did the name Plain and Simple come from intrigues me. Yep. But we get to know you first, Glen. But before we do that, Charlie Hula, how you doing?
I'm in a good way, matey. I'm in a good way.
Hula's in the house. Gigging next week?
We are, yeah. We got 3 dates lined up, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 2 in Brighton, 1 up in London.
I've put the request in with Mrs. Jones, and I'm just waiting to see what one I'm going to be able to attend.
I'm waiting to see if the holiday approval will come in.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the form to come back, mate. So we'll see what happens. So, we don't have a podcast without our listeners. We don't have a podcast without our sponsors. So Marcel Creasy from MHK Holding UK, he's got a big event with that business this week. All the best with that. Thank you for your continued support. You're making a massive difference to the show. Glen, let's talk all things plain and simple.
Sure.
The business, the history, and I think what's going to intrigue so many people is the story you told me when we first got to know each other about how you arrived in this business, because there's an entrepreneurial journey you've been on, and it all began many moons ago in Canada before you even got to Scotland.
It did. I'll try not to bore you too much.
We won't be bored. We're fascinated. We're fascinated, Glen. Over to you. Introduce yourself. Have some fun.
So it has been a bit of a journey to get to where I am today, and it's funny how life takes you on those kind of funny routes. Started my career in engineering. So I was a consulting civil engineer in Canada. Still am a registered professional engineer there, but not practicing, obviously. And I was rising through my career steadily and felt like there was more I needed to do, more I needed to learn. So I decided to go study a business degree. Ended up going to the University of Edinburgh Business School. And graduated from that Masters of Business program in 2008-2009, which wasn't a fantastic time to be graduating from a business school. Although I had a few offers on the table, I ended up going back to Canada. And went back into consulting. Not long after, I ended up joining a boutique property development firm as their director of development. And that was kind of my foray into entrepreneurial life. It was kind of a startup in itself. We grew that firm quite quickly, property with assets under management. It was a really excellent journey. Great to be part of that team building it. But then felt I needed to get more comfortable with risk. And I had met a great guy who had started a completely different business, a craft cider business, alcoholic cider. And here, in the UK, cider is a big thing, but in Ontario, province of Ontario in Canada, it was quite a new thing, and craft cider was quite new. So we were like-minded. He was a former engineer as well. Really liked the guy. We hit it off. After talking for quite a while, I decided to come on board with him and help grow that business. So that was, again, rolling up your sleeves, doing everything in a business to get it going, and that was great. All the while, my wife and I were talking about Scotland. We met when we were both studying in Scotland, in Edinburgh. And opportunity arose for us to move, so we just picked everything up, moved over to Edinburgh, and it was kind of like a dream. And it was What
was it that drew you and your wife to Edinburgh? Is it the history of the? Is it the memory of it? Is it something that just?
I think Edinburgh gets into your soul when you're there. There's a castle popped up in the middle of the city, walking the cobblestone streets. It's got a great vibe to it. Little did I know at the time the entrepreneurial sector there and the ecosystem that was bubbling away. I had no idea when we just decided to move there. And it wasn't until we made that decision I started reaching out to people that I was blown away by it. And very quickly, after speaking to one or two people, my network exploded. And people were so welcoming in the business community. I was meeting investors, and then I was meeting the startups that those investors were investing in. And I was fortunate enough to meet a chap named John, and John had started a marketplace for off licenses, where he was connecting off licenses with consumers for delivery of drinks within an hour.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say anything stereotypical,
Yeah.
but I'd imagine there's quite a demand for that service north of the border.
There's a demand everywhere.
I mean, there's a
for
demand
that.
for that here, to be fair. So certainly in West London, where I grew up, that's a must-have. My brother-in-law was telling me that if you upgrade, you could get it even quicker, but you pay a premium price now. So I'm like, do you actually do that? He went, yeah, sometimes I do.
Yeah,
sorry.
It was great, and the business was moving along, and it was being part of that business. I was fortunate. The Scottish government was sending some Scottish entrepreneurial leaders to Boston for kind of a 2-week intensive program. I was lucky enough to be invited on that program, and while I was there, I met Andrew and Mike Donaldson, who are the 6th generation of the Donaldson Group, a 163-year-old Scottish timber business. They were by far the most mature business on that cohort, but really kind of speaks to their mentality that they want to embrace entrepreneurialism in growing their business, even one that's 163 years old. And as things happen on these courses, you're out for a pint or you're talking during class, and this was pre-pandemic, and the question came up of there's not many builders merchants who have e-commerce. They're not trading online. So there's something we could do to make it really easy for them. And that was this light bulb moment of, well, how about a marketplace? Marketplaces work really well when there's a commoditized product. So if people aren't too concerned where that product is coming from, they just want to know it's going to be quality and the people that are selling it and deliver it are respectable and trustworthy, that's the most important thing. A marketplace for, say, a dentist probably isn't the best because you don't trade dentists very frequently. You get a dentist, you stick with it. So marketplace seemed like a really good idea. We go back to our businesses. We stayed in touch, talked for about a year. I was telling them about what we were doing in our business, the learnings that we had. And then one thing led to another. I had a call from Andy one day and said, hey, we're actually going to start this business and we're looking for somebody to lead it. Timing was right for me. I came on board. And we grew the business from there. And you asked about the name.
Yeah, fascinated.
We had no name when I joined. We had a code name for it, which I can tell you afterwards. That's another story.
Oh, that's exciting, Charlie.
And so we went through the typical branding marketing exercise, and we had an agency that was helping us to do that. We went through a whole bunch of stupid names, and you never know what's going to stick. And then you pick one, you love it. And then you do the title search and you look for the URLs, can you buy them? And you find out, oh, it's trademark, you can't do it. But when Plain and Simple came about, we thought, wow, that's absolutely everything we're trying to do. We want it to be simple, plain and simple for our merchants. We want it to be plain and simple for the customer shopping on the marketplace. It fit, and we spelt it Plane, that nod to wood. So it all kind of fell into place that way.
And sometimes the most simple concepts can happen. I mean, what I'm intrigued with so much of that story. I think the graduating in 2009. If we go back to then, good luck with that.
Yeah.
That was without a doubt 2009 to 2010, 11, toughest passage of play I've ever experienced in my life. And I mean that professionally. I mean that personally. I mean that emotionally. I mean that financially. I went as a business owner, and quite a young business owner. So I was in my early 30s. I was 2004, so 4 or 5 years into the business, and thought I was invincible. And I weren't invincible. And I learned some tough knocks. Still got the scars. So that's fascinating in itself. That you've gone out of that, and you've got into cider. I mean, that's engineering aside. That's a step. That's a natural pathway, isn't it?
Well, I always somebody was asking me about this the other day. Actually, what is it about entrepreneurialism that attracts me? And when I reflect back, the people in my life who I've always looked up to and respected were entrepreneurial themselves, whether they started their own businesses or had side gigs. And I've kind of just surrounded myself with those people. It doesn't mean you have to start a business. It could be just being entrepreneurial.
It's a mindset.
Yeah.
I honestly believe it should be taught at school. It should be taught at college. It should be something we focus on in creativity, in developing passion, and actually conceptually doing something, starting something, and maybe not conforming. Actually going the other way. If I always say this, if 9 people are going to turn right, be the one that turns left and see where that goes. It doesn't always end up where you want to be, but you find some stuff from it, and then something that we can go back to. You and your wife, we're going to go to Edinburgh. That's where we're going to go. Did you have an income when you arrived in Edinburgh? Was there a position for you to move into, or did you drop in and then make that happen?
Luckily, she did.
Yeah.
So she had a role that she transferred over. So that gave us the comfort level to be able to make the jump. But I had nothing.
Yeah.
I had come for 2 weeks before we moved to meet some people, and that actually sealed the deal for me, because that's when I discovered how welcoming the business community was. I came within 2 days. I had meetings scheduled for the rest of my 2 weeks. I couldn't fit more people in because everybody just, you should talk to this person. You should go meet with this person. And so when we did eventually make the move and we landed, I could pick up the phone and say, I'm here. Could we go and meet in person for a coffee? Nothing. But I had a plan. I had a bit of a plan, the kind of people I wanted to talk to.
But you had a plan. You made appointments happen. I speak to business developers. I speak to individuals that are challenged to make appointments every day, and they will struggle. They will not be able to get booked in. They're not, and you've arrived there, blank piece of paper, and you've made it happen. And that is a mindset, and that's perhaps that mindset of entrepreneurialism, and genuinely just being that type of individual that wants to go a little bit further. So we've arrived at Edinburgh. Plain and simple. When did the brand properly launch, Glenn? When did you tell the world you were trading?
So we built the technology for a number of months, and we built it from scratch. We didn't take something off the shelf and try to shoehorn it in, because we wanted it to work for merchants. It had to kind of hit their pain points, and along the entire customer journey and the checkout process, it had to work. And because of the support we had from the Donaldson Group, we knew what merchants kind of needed, and we were able to pick up the phone and ask them. So we did the build. We launched in June of 2021. So we're later this month, it'll be our 2-year anniversary of trading. So June 2021, we launched in Edinburgh. I'm based in Edinburgh. Do our beta launch there, work out the bugs. And I still remember the first order that came in. I've got that saved. When you kind of have that, I won't swear on audio, but that.
Sure, we get the parent advisory lyrics. They come on the feed. So you're okay,
holy
mate.
Shit, you've got.
I mean, you've seen some of our guests. We've had a few F-bombs dropped in this studio.
Good. All right,
haven't we, Nick Boyle?
We've started now, so we'll open the floodgates.
Yeah.
The holy shit, it actually works.
Yeah.
The customer's paid, the money's gone where it was supposed to go, the order's gone through to our merchant partner, they've picked it up, they're bringing it to the customer, everybo's happy, and you think, the million things that we had to think about to make that process work.
You never forget that, and it's just taken me back to a time in early 2004 when me and Foyne had just launched Foyne Jones. We were 2 young lads who were making it happen. And we got ourselves a big gig from a national builders merchant that we might have used to work for, so we got quite a warm welcome. But they must have given us, I reckon they were laughing when they gave us these projects. They gave us an underperforming timber merchant, which will remain nameless, in Aberdeen, that needed a manager and an assistant manager because one had been arrested and one had left for, whatever. It was a difficult job, that one. So, and then we had a sales specialist for a civil and utilities merchant of theirs in Lytham St Anne's, which is just above Blackpool, famous for the open golf course. So they were the first two official instructions we got, and we celebrated like we'd scored the winning goal in an FA Cup final. But you look back, they must have been laughing their heads off giving us those projects. But I to this day, we filled them both. Yeah, we filled all three of the positions. But I will never forget that moment when we actually. It wasn't talk. It wasn't this could happen. This way. It was like, oh. And that, Glenn, was in a day when there weren't a Facebook. Positions were advertised in newspapers or trade journals rather than online, and it was a lot of emotion to get there.
And what do you do now, though?
The fact you remember that.
What do you do now, though, to keep those celebrations going? Because as you go and you get into your set routines, it's easy to forget about those.
I encourage forward rolls, funny dances. We do all sorts of soft stuff in and around the office to keep people going. But I'm a big believer in celebrating small wins and celebrating success and over communicating. So a new client to me is a celebration. A new project is something we should be proud of. The other way, non-attendance of an interview, I still feel it like a knife in the heart. So it's there, but it is hard. And I've been through stages. I've shared this in other podcasts, but I've been through stages. I'm in my 20th year. It'll be as the clock turns, it'll be 20 official years, 2004. So when I look at it, and we've been big, we've been small, we've been okay. We've done all that. But there are times when I've lost my way. I've been questioning myself. Have I got imposter syndrome? What am I doing this for? And you have to I have to dig deep and remember what I enjoy. And if I remember what I enjoy and I expose myself to areas which are new to me, and I still feel nervous, I still feel apprehensive. We've got no God-given right for any business to deal with us. We've got to deliver. And I think it's those emotions which really help me. They're the emotions I talk about when I'm talking to schools and colleges and, people that are looking for work. I talk about that area of taking a chance, going for something, chasing your dream, because that's when you make stuff happen, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think those recognizing those small wins is so important.
So where's Plain and Simple now as a business model, as a concept? Talk to the listeners, talk to people watching us, and just give us an idea of where the business is right now. We're on the 1st of June. And we're in 2023, I believe. So let's talk about where the business is now.
So we started June 21 in Edinburgh. We then, a few months later, expanded to Glasgow. I should say, when we did launch, it was very uncomfortable to launch because, and there's that old adage, if you've launched and you're really satisfied with what you launched, you waited too long. So we launched, it was uncomfortable, but it all worked. So got that over with very quickly, everything's working, great, let's expand the test to Glasgow. Expanded to Glasgow, got those two areas, kind of the central belt of Scotland, humming along a bit. Said, okay, let's take our first steps into England. We went to Devon and Cornwall, signed up some great merchant partners there, operated there for another few months, and said, okay, well, let's try the Southeast. So we brought on some really fantastic partners here in the Southeast. So we're in those 4 areas right now: Edinburgh, Glasgow, Southwest, Southeast, not into London, south of London. And it's going really, really well.
So you're quite well located right now for that, aren't you? So you're in amongst your own, so that's good.
And I mean, it's the startup journey, right? I mean, it's not a straight line, but our trajectory is very clear. And what we're building isn't an incremental business. It's not a business where the line ticks up. It's one where it's slow, and accelerates up.
I saw a great infographic from Stephen Bartlett on the startup journey and the different, the different paths it can take to get there. And I think the emotions you go through on any journey, when it's your name above the door, you're leading the business, you've got so many different responsibilities because you're responsible to your partners, you're responsible to your investors, you're responsible to your stakeholders, your customers, then your own team. Because my team don't want to know that Fulham lost at the weekend and I'm in a bad mood on a Monday. They don't, and it happens, occasionally, Charlie, doesn't it? We get beat. So it's lifting yourself, and I've learnt sometimes that the best impact I can have some days is not to be there. because actually it works well. Let it work.
Yep.
We've had guests on and we talk about different styles of management, and one thing that's come through in this series, and it is about inspiring stars of the future. If you're a future manager, a future leader, you surround yourself with good people.
Yep.
Let them go to work. Let them go to work, and I don't see you as a micromanager, Glenn. I see you someone who's giving a lot of scope to learn. And,
I try to.
go.
I certainly. I mean, we could get my team in here, and they'll tell you the truth. I certainly try to, and
well, they're all going to be new listeners if they're not listeners already, Glenn. So I'll find out.
One of the things I always try to do is when I'm asked a question is to ask, what do you think we should do, and give people the space to do that. It's really important for me that everybody in the team feels, first of all, safe to raise their opinion, and second of all, that their opinion and their voice matters, and it makes a difference. And it's easy to say that when you're a small, early stage business and a small team, but that's really important kind of in the values of our business, that continues. Diversity of thought as well in our business. We are not all men in the business, but predominantly men, but we do have some women in the business in senior roles that really do voice their opinions, and that's important because the industry as a whole, I think, is very male dominated. Although when we're in merchants now and we see them, the people there is more diversity happening. I know specifically in the Donaldson Group we have a big drive towards diversity and inclusion. We have a steering committee for that. We have a steering committee for women in leadership, trying to grow those roles. And that's something that we're very much proud of.
We had a fantastic guest. She couldn't get to the studio. She recorded remotely, but Tony McClelland came on, and she's a diversity, inclusion, equality champion. She's a very inspirational lady. And she's advised the government, she's advised the police, she advised the investigation into the Grenfell disaster, and she's worked with the gang. She's worked with so many different areas. It's such a powerful episode because the main message that you took away from Tony is that believe in it. Believe it. Don't just do it or say it, but believe it. Give it a chance, and you'll be amazed what can happen. And I think the plain and simple story is an example of what can be achieved, and it's only just the beginning. And what we're going to do, Glenn, is in the second half of the podcast, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the builders merchant space, what that looks and feels like as a digital landscape, what it feels like as an e-commerce landscape. Being, and I'll use a word which can be overused and sometimes it could be called trendy, but being a perceived disruptor because you're challenging the conventional. It's a different route to market. It's a different concept. What you're dealing with when you're having those conversations, and then we'll wrap the show up by just giving some advice and inspiration to the next entrepreneur, to the next star of the future, who's going to be beginning their journey and perhaps thinking, can I achieve something very, very different to the conventional? So thanks for coming down. It's been a brilliant podcast so far. We'll see you after the break.
Life-changing recruitment for the KBB, builders merchant and construction industries. Creative social content, specialist knowledge, world-leading video technology, helping you find career happiness and helping your business attract its stars of the future. We are Foyne Jones. This is what we do.
Welcome back to episode 13 of the Foyne Jones Show. I'm inspiring stars of the future today with Glen Stocco, and he's told us about the journey to Edinburgh from Canada, and the plain and simple story. What I want to do now, Glenn, is focus on your customer. Focus on the partners and the people you're talking to. It's an environment, it's a world which is close to my heart. It's where it all began for me. It began for me in Travis Perkins, Fulham, when I was 18 years of age, in the timber yard, doing admin, working on the counter, and it was an amazing journey for me to director level. You're on the other side of that fence because going back to my old world, I would be your customer. I would be the person that you've got to influence, the person you're going to win over. You mentioned something before the break, and I'll say this again and again and again, the builders merchant industry can be quite white, male, style. You know, that's middle age. That's genuinely when you look at the industry. I think there's a time for change that has to come with diversity, and I applaud that you mentioned that, because that's something that so many guests are talking passionately about at the moment. We've got a generational problem. You know, is the builders merchant industry attractive to the youngsters that want to be a YouTuber? They want to be in media. They want to be in fashion. They want to be in music. You know, probably not. So we need to perhaps work on our shop window. But then we talk about the modern world. Technology, how it's evolving, how it's moving, how quick it goes, different social platforms, different ways of buying a product, selling a product, marketing a product. You're in a very traditional space. You mentioned, 163 years of history, but you're aware of a business there that wants to think entrepreneurially. Love to get your feelings and thoughts on the merchant landscape so far, particularly with technology, e-commerce and digital. What are you experiencing when you're introducing your brand?
Yeah, well, I think the move to digital commerce obviously has accelerated in the past couple of years, but it's here to stay, and I think merchants appreciate that. We're not having to explain what e-commerce is. Merchants know it. The difficulty comes when a merchant is maybe a smaller merchant that has a lot on their plate already. You know, they're wearing a number of hats. And really what we're doing is coming to them and saying, with Plain and Simple, we can bring you online customers with no effort and no risk. And that's kind of a too good to be true scenario. So for us, it's been about building trust.
Where's the catch?
Exactly. And we only succeed if our partners succeed. And we've structured our terms in such a way that that's how it is. And there's no cost to a merchant to work with us if we don't bring you sales. But it's taken time. 2 years in now, we're seeing the fruits of all that effort. Myself going personally, talking with merchants, speaking at events, being part of the Builders Merchant Federation, and speaking at events there. And it's very much you know this better than I do, a relationship-based industry. And it's when some of our partners will say to other prospective partners that they know, hey, the people at Plain and Simple are good people. Give them a try. We like working with them. That's the best endorsement that you can ever have. Had a meeting yesterday with a merchant here in Sussex that said, we tell everybody, why wouldn't you be on Plain and Simple? And that's it's heartwarming, first of all, because we feel like we're actually doing good. So in terms of what we're seeing out there, people know e-commerce. Marketplaces are the big thing, and from our perspective,
I was fascinated. We spoke about that downstairs before we came in the studio, and how you put it makes so much sense, because they're not just here to stay; they're the future, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, there was a study that said that by 2050, 50% of all online spend will be on marketplaces. I wouldn't be surprised if it's sooner than that. People want to shop on marketplaces.
And Glenn, and again, I'm not saying we have, but if we've got a listener who's been on the planet Mars and they've just dropped in, just explain what you mean by an online marketplace.
So an online marketplace the best analogy would be like a shopping mall.
Yeah.
So you go to a shopping mall, you've got multiple stores. Well, an online marketplace is like an online shopping center where you see multiple merchants selling multiple products. The classic example is Amazon or eBay. Those are marketplaces. They're generalist marketplaces. On the flip side, you have what's called a specialist marketplace. Imagine that's like a shopping center that sells a specific type of product to a specific kind of customer. So for us, Plain and Simple, we're a specialist marketplace.
Yeah.
We only work with independent builders merchants, primarily on big and bulky building materials, decking, fencing, insulation, sheet materials, that kind of stuff. Where you purchase on Plain and Simple, we connect you with the local builders merchant. They deliver it right to your door. You don't have to worry about putting it in your vehicle.
And the transaction's with Plain and Simple.
So the transaction is through Plain and Simple.
Yeah.
So we are basically the introducer to the builders merchant. And we always show the customer the merchant they're shopping from. We never hide that in any way. So you know.
So if I was a customer, which I may well be, and I'm in the market for some, let's just pick up landscaping products. So
Yep.
bulk bags of
Yep.
decorative gravel, some deckid, like just I'm upgrading my garden.
Yep.
I find the products on Plain and Simple. I get my price, I get my delivery time, I pay the transaction, and it arrives from the merchant of choice.
Yep, exactly. They show up, you pay the money, they show up, you can purchase from multiple merchants in one basket.
I back myself. I wouldn't be that scared of a builder's merchant. It's in my past. But there are lots of customers that wouldn't naturally shop in a landscaping merchant, a builder's merchant, a timber merchant.
We hear this all the time, and we've done quite a bit of customer research. There's people who don't know about these incredible local merchants. They'll go to the larger shed stores just because they don't know about them. Or there's the customer who does know about them, but they're too intimidated to go into them. Because, to be perfectly honest, they're not always the most inviting places. Large racking of big, scary building materials. But they're quality materials with trusted merchants. So what we see ourselves as almost lifting the veil on these great independents and bringing that DIY customer segment to them.
That would be attractive to me if I was still in the independent builders merchant game, because it's a new customer base. It's a customer base that you're not marketing to. Well, you are marketing to, but you're not knocking on their doors, are you? You're not always going to notice the skip, the scaffold, or have the external representation.
And as a merchant, you already have all of that infrastructure there. You already have the delivery vehicles that deliver all your products anyhow. You're already housing those products. You already have the products on site in your branch. So you're basically sweating that asset. We can bring you new customers for an asset you already have and products you already have in stock.
And is there a price advantage for the customer coming to you rather than going to the merchant? Is there a benefit to them?
Yeah, I think it's not always about price, it's about quality as well. And I'm not saying that to be disparaging to any shed stores, but if you're buying from a trusted local independent builders merchant where the builders shop, we often say shop where the builders shop. So you're getting trade quality products at a competitive price. So we do a lot. We are very much a data-driven business. So we analyze prices online, not just from our marketplace, merchants on our marketplace, but also whoever's selling online in the wider market. And then what we do is we actually create tailored reports for each one of our merchants to show them the product mix that they have in Plain and Simple, their prices, and how they compare. But we don't go for the lowest price. We take an average price because we want our partners to be competitive. It's not about being the cheapest. It's just about being competitive.
And it shouldn't be. I mean, we are not, and we will never be the cheapest recruitment business out there. God forbid. I was with a new client yesterday, and they're coming on board. We've got a position which will go live early next week. And they sell their product. It's a landscaping product, funnily enough, but they sell on value. They're a manufacturer who is pride, and they sell on value, and they partner with merchants. And their piece is to educate the merchant to sell on value, because if they follow that through, the product has got longevity. The product is sustainable. The product works. And it was a dream come true for me, because when I was talking through our approach and what I said, we was the same. It's value. We want the appointment to work. We want to be your partner, and that's something which is sometimes missing at customer-facing level in some merchants. And it does vary from branch to branch, so I'm not being disrespectful to branch manager population, the trade counter population, but with different levels of ability, different levels of leadership, different levels of coaching, there's a skill set sometimes which is missing. And if you've got a conceptual product like you have, or a solution like you have, you are going to disrupt the conventional. You're going to be seen, I guess, as a disruptor. Is there some hard stop pushbacks where people just go, it's just not for us, or can you overcome anything?
There's always going to be people that's just not for them, and that's fine, and we respect that. More often than not, the reception we get is, well, it just makes sense. Why wouldn't I do that? But when we do have some pushback, it can be, it's a marketplace. Do I really want to have my name, my products, my prices next to my competitors? But the fact is that already exists. Customers can call up a merchant and then call up their competitors and get competing prices. What we're doing is we're actually showing people who didn't even know that merchant existed that they can shop from them. So market forces will always be there, and I think merchants who are okay with that and understand competition are fine with it. And what we find is the more engagement we have with our partners back and forth, we give them feedback, they give us feedback. They're the ones who perform the best with us.
And bringing the plain and simple piece just to a close, Glenn. What's the rest of this year and next year looking like for you? What's the objectives? What's the plan? What have you got in store for us?
Yeah, lots of exciting things. We are an early stage business with lofty ambitions, and we are ambitious. We've got a lot of irons in the fire that I can't quite talk about just yet, but
don't give the game plan away. Just leave us wanting more.
We'll be growing.
That's what we want.
Yeah, we'll be growing the 4 regions that we're in already. We'll be expanding to new ones. We've got our eyes, quite a strategic plan in terms of where we want to go. We do want to be UK wide. That is the plan. So we'll be just putting those plans in motion.
Fantastic. Glenn, absolutely brilliant. Talking about, how the builders merchant sector, the community, that everyone involved can just start thinking differently and actually introducing themselves to a completely different customer base. That's so exciting. It's so exciting. I was taught by my granddad once on the market stall that we've got 3 options if you want to grow the business. We've got to find new customers, sell new fruit and sell different lines of fruit and veg, or charge more. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the most simple. You talk about an entrepreneur background. You got a market stall and you got to sell it before it goes out of date to make money and put the stuff. That was probably where I got the is it an entrepreneurial spark? Is it a culture? Is it a way of life? Is it a confidence? I think a lot of where I am comes back to that, and that leads us seamlessly to the next generation, because this series, season 6, is about the next generation. I think there is an industry-wide problem in attracting people into the sector, but more importantly, we want to inspire the next generation, because anyone joining the business at any level, whether they're transferring at a mature level, at a junior level, apprenticeship level, leadership level, can add value. Mm-hmm. We've got a guest coming on. She's female. She's a trailblazer. She's recording this month. That's going to be really exciting, because she's going to be talking about how, in a very male-dominated industry, she assumed a leadership role and did really well at it.
I will say we do work with a lot of senior women in this industry.
No, they're there. They're there. I think that's the beauty of it. They're there. But if me and you walk round, let's go and walk round 5 builders merchants between here and central London, how many females will we see in that population? And that's the challenge I'm saying to people, is that if we open our doors, and there may need to be some changes.
And it's not just women, it's diversity in its totality.
And I think we need to look at a different... It's hard because of the opening hours, but we can be creative with shift patterns. We can be creative with
I
hours.
knew you were going to bring that up.
Of course I'm going to bring it up, because it's something which I think is really important. Yeah. There is a missed trick with back-to-work parents and talent that just cannot get in because they can't get there at 7:30 every day, or they can't do the 5 days a week and the Saturday morning. But my God, for 3.5 days, they'd be your best player ever. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you give them a go? Mm-hmm. And that's I have that conversation. I do. I have it all the time. But advice to the next generation, Glenn. What would you say to someone starting out on their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. I don't know how qualified I am to give advice to anybody.
We think you're reasonably qualified, don't we, Charles?
I gave it some thought. You asked me to kind of come with that, and I thought about 3 things that I've heard from people that have affected me along my journey. And the first one, I think, I've learned firsthand is meet with as many people from as diverse a background as you possibly can. And it may be sometimes uncomfortable to do it, and you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to pick up the phone or go for a coffee with somebody. But you never know what's going to come from those conversations. And it may take years before something actually comes from that conversation, but you won't know until you do it. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's from conversations that I never expected to have that something great has come from it. So that'd be my first one. Second one was taught to me early on in my career was if you've got a big decision to make, sleep on it. And if you've got a partner, a business or a personal partner, both of you should try to sleep on it, come back to it in the morning. And then the last one would be something actually came from Jim Collins in Good to Great, which build your personal board of directors. Those people that embody those values and standards that you aspire to, and you can always lean on them when you need some advice or to confide in. So those would be my 3 that have helped me along.
I mean, honestly, there's 3 powerful messages there. Meeting new people, opening your mind, having conversations.
Yeah, and I should say, I should have said for that one too, is always be willing to support somebody. So when you're meeting those people, always see how you can help them.
Give them something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give something. Give something. I mean, that's powerful. Sleeping on a decision, taking some time to think. I mean, there isn't an example in life when that won't make a difference. The worst decisions I make are the ones when I'm under pressure or when I'm rushing. The best decisions I make are when they thought through and they're educated and they're balanced. Yeah, you have to, as a business owner, make some decisions. And Sun Tzu, I read a lot of Sun Tzu. You have to swoop. Swoop, and when decisions made. But at times it's a calculated swoop. It's when we go. But until we're ready, we hold back. And the last one, that's the big one for me. Building your board of directors. Surrounding yourself with people that you admire. You would take advice from. People you look up to. I read something the other day about don't worry about criticism of someone you wouldn't take advice from. And that's so powerful and so simple. And I went, wow, I'm going to use that at some point because it's very powerful. And I think the old-fashioned rules of being disciplined, being creative, doing the right thing, having some belief in what you do, that makes the difference. One of the heartbreaking things for me I see from a job-seeking situation is there's so many people that are on like the hamster wheel. They're going through their career, they're going from month to month, they're okay, but they don't know whether to try this or go for that or apply for this. And what's the worst that can happen? Asking for help, trying to go for something, believing in yourself. There's some great takeaways for our stars of the future, Glenn. They really are. And if we look at this episode, we've got to know you, and I knew some of the journey from Canada to Edinburgh, but I didn't know all of the journey. The cider angle I did know about, the off-licence angle I did know about, but it's great that you've shared it publicly. And the strategy that you've adopted with Plain and Simple and getting close to the key groups, identifying the independents in certain areas where they can benefit from what you're doing, that's something which should be celebrated. It should be spoke really positively about. And actually, the approach you have, the detail, the data, the presenting of ideas and demonstrating how it can get results, that will make a difference to every single independent builders merchant. Glenn, it's been brilliant to have you on the show. Couple of things before we wrap up. You're in Brighton, I'm in Brighton. We can have a drink, beside the sea, side by side the sea.
Absolutely.
Charlie can't make it. He's got busy he's got busy music stuff to do. But we'll chew the fat afterwards and just enjoy. It's a bit windy out there, but we enjoy Sussex by the sea and the sunshine. And you've got some team events going on tonight, mate.
We do, yeah. The team's here.
I heard a vicious rumour you're axe throwing.
Yeah, Team Plain and Simple is taking on Brighton today.
So they're taking on Brighton. They're going to Hatchet Harry's, Charlie. Yeah. Hatchet Harry's. They're throwing axes. Yeah.
Keep your hard hats on if you're in the gaff tonight, then.
I mean, they're there.
We
down.
get pretty competitive.
I could imagine there'll be data on the trajectory of the axe, wouldn't
Absolutely.
there? And everything. But
we've got spreadsheets.
But it's good. I mean, I've wanted to get you on the episodes on the podcast since we've been working together. You haven't disappointed. I know this is something you was, I wouldn't say word worried, but you was this is slightly outside of your comfort zone. You've come in and smashed it out of the park, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. That was Glen Stocco from Plain and Simple. That's the end of episode 13. Thanks again to Marcel Creasy from our headline sponsor, MHK Holding UK. This podcast is only good as you, the listener, and other guests that want to get involved. So don't be shy. Reach out to me, reach out to Charlie, and you can help us for the rest of this series inspire our stars of the future. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next episode. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as I said, that's the end of the show. Thanks for listening. Make sure you check out next week's episode as we will keep inspiring our stars of the future.